It's your boys. Turf hashtag gang. Lil Turf. Self-loathing in this bitch. Yeah. Turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang. Turf gang. Spend 10 on a rat girl raid. That boy love do S-strays. I fuck a bitch, I'm a lesbian. Couldn't buy my bitch, know what it rain. Till 15, still got pledge. Turf gang, turf gang, turf gang. Turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang, turf gang. Spend 10 on a rat girl raid. That boy love do S-strays. I fuck a bitch, I'm a lesbian. Couldn't buy my bitch, know what it rain. Till 15, still gap wage. Turf gang, turf gang, turf gang. Womanhood not for rent. Gentrified, physically make them
welcome to the Mother's Day edition of the TERFCAST. I am Bauxy.
I'm Karen.
You know us, you love us by this point, one would hope.
It's been 3 episodes. If you don't love us yet, I don't know if you're going to.
Well, yeah, if you're just tuning in because you're a mother and you're sick of the bullshit, this is the episode for you. So you know who we are now. We got some stuff to get into this week, like usual. Some stuff.
This is a culture war, right?
Yes, this is the gender war podcast, and I'm shaking my head right now just because I'm upset that there's a gender war at all.
Yeah, it's not the gender war I was expecting, that's for sure. Like, if you told me a few years ago, like, this is what I'd be doing now, I'd be like, no way. That's not possible. I'm on the right side of history.
It's not the gender war that we need, but it's the gender war we deserve.
Yeah.
No, that's the way to put it.
Well, you're the movie buff.
Oh yeah, my favorite movie, The Dark Knight.
With great gender comes great responsibility.
With great sex comes great gender. Classic TRA proverb.
All right, I think we should just dive into. We have a decent amount to get through. So news from Planet Turf is what we're calling it now, and everybody knows what our lead story is. It's not Mother's Day, actually. It's the trans shooter. Yes. So if anybody is not American or living under a rock or just sick of school shootings and not following them, 2 students shot up a STEM school that apparently has all grades from K through 12, and it's been revealed that one of the shooters was originally reported as being female, which is correct, but
ding, ding, ding.
Is a trans man or trans boy.
Boo! Boo!
I mean, all that tells us is that this is a person with deep psychological issues, which we already knew because they shot up their school. How
could you say that? How could you say trans people have psychological issues, Karen?
I'm not saying they're all shooters. I'm just saying, it's kind of a sign in teen girls.
They're shrinking violets. Come on.
Right. So it wasn't, I don't know how much longer the media is going to be talking about this. It wasn't a huge, in terms of body count, it's really low.
1 dead.
8 wounded or something like that, 8 or 9.
I believe that the shooters had the guns wrestled from their hands by other students, which is, maybe we are shrinking violence after all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but this doesn't seem to be particularly tactically planned or, or maybe they thought, it was going to be easier, and they're like, oh, we got guns, right? That's all you need. And I think they only had, a few handguns. I don't think they had, a whole arsenal like some of the other shooters.
Yeah, well, yeah, you gotta come prepared. It's so funny to me that like this can be funny to me, but then like, misogynistic verbal abuse is not. It's like, I don't know, maybe I need to get my priorities in order and start caring when every single person on Earth dies.
I don't support shooting guns at people.
The whole society is sick.
I basically think that mental illness in youth is like, okay, I don't want to say it's lit. Gender is actually a huge cause of school shootings or just violence in general. Because, I mean, we all know who does these things.
Trans men.
Yeah. We didn't end up finding any, like, Betel takes about, like, ooh, look how violent men are, but, like, I'm positive they're there. Sorry, we didn't search it, but, like, that is absolutely I can guarantee you, every Betel, all of their minds went straight to, oh, well, there you go, violent men.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, as opposed to, like, every violent thing that a trans woman has done up until this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I think is interesting about the story is more just the analysis of the media on it and of how they are reporting it and if they're going to continue reporting it, but that kind of is yet to be seen. But Kiwi Farms, shout out to Kiwi Farms, our sponsor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're women.
Yeah. I noticed that they had a poll, which I think they probably do for each shooting as more and more is discovered about it. And it was like, how is the media going to report this? Is it an incel? Is it a Muslim, which I think they called kebabs? Is it society's fault? Is it, I can't remember, there was like a fourth one. And the society's fault had the biggest amount of votes. And I think that's because this definitely does not fit the incel or white nationalist narrative that the liberal media likes to tell about shooters. And a friend of the shooters wrote on Instagram, quote, Alec did not do this because he's trans, but had people supported him in the way he needed and deserved, he would not have struggled so much that he got pushed over the edge.
Oh, me oh my.
That's the trans narrative. If it is true that shooters do it for glory, which I don't necessarily get that these two were looking for any particular glory. I think they're just like, I don't know, just fucked up. But, wow, no glory here. One of them got their car towed and it had like fuck society and 666 spray painted on it, which is like so cringe.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's cool, Karen.
I mean, total soy boys got the guns wrestled out of their hands by like some ROTC kids or something. And yeah, and like just the shit like when the media was reporting on like Facebook posts that like the kids had posted in the past, they were just like so basic. Like these kids are just, I mean, they're fucking kids and they're just dumb SJWs. Apparently the one was a big bully, which is not uncommon with SJWs. Obviously, there's going to be some curiosity about whether the trans boy was on testosterone.
The last thing I wanted to do was speculate on his mindset, which to me, it's not super hard. Okay? Like, to me, it's that, women can participate in toxic masculinity as well, because it's a gendered trait. Gender is separate from sex. So, yeah, it's just female trying to be more masculine for the sake of her validity.
You want to be seen as a white man.
There you go, yeah.
Men are not well liked right now, particularly white men.
Oh, yeah, that's honestly like a big factor. People refuse to believe that we live in a liberal zeitgeist.
I know.
A liberal society. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, this has been the big. There are people now who are 11 years old, which is, as far as media and the trans lobby is concerned, is trans age. Those people have grown up not even since just Bush hatred was rampant. But since Obama was elected,
right,
and Trump is, if Trump is affecting the zeitgeist at all, he's not, moving the media zeitgeist anyway, except for bland hatred of fascism. I want to say this also real quick about postmodernism, is that when I hear radfems say like postmodernism is bad, that just strikes me as like somebody saying like progressivism is bad. Postmodernism is all that is taking away previous definitions of things. People misapply postmodernism all the time to say like, sex is postmodern and stuff like that, and not, in the ways that it a little bit is. The main thing that we need to realize is that we don't live in, this conservative culture where, transness is, pushing back against really anything. I mean, I understand there's, resistance to men being feminine and women being masculine, but it's so, like, this particular identity right here is so fashionable that we have to understand it as something beyond just an oppressed identity.
Yeah, and I think that it's worth, like, noting that, we could say, like, yeah, there's more gay people in big cities because they moved there, but with the trans thing, we can track, like, high school students, and they're not moving anywhere to be trans. They are where they are, and in the more liberal states, there's more trans kids because it's fashionable. It's not because, like, oh, they feel more free to come out. Like, everybody's doing exactly whatever the fuck they want. Everybody has custom, nobody has to watch the 5 channels that are available. Like, anybody can watch whatever YouTube channel they want. Everybody can get, like, custom-made t-shirts with whatever their favorite thing is. Like, everybody has, like, a completely custom experience, so I don't...
Yeah, we're living in a purely individualistic age.
Right, so I don't think that, like, anybody is more or less, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
the number of non-binary kids in art school should tell you something about this trend.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it for trans shooter.
Yeah.
Woman goes on roid rage shooting massacre. Next, it's Mother's Day, everyone. Happy Mother's Day, Karen.
Thank you. I hope I've been a good mommy to you.
To me, absolutely.
And to my kids, my actual kids.
Who cares about them?
I do. That's why I'm a great mom.
You need to care about me. I'm hungry. Okay, let's talk about this in relation to transness here.
Yes. Yeah, we have to make it about them because they make it about them.
Indeed. Validate me, Mom.
So I was not on the internet very much today. I got a new game on my phone. So Wordscapes, it's great.
Gamer alert.
Yeah. You were on the internet today, so tell me about Mother's Day.
I searched pretty hard, and I still really didn't find a whole lot of new takes with regards to, like, Mother's Day, like, because I think everybody realizes, like, it's a bad look to get upset about Mother's Day because it's like, I mean, there's nothing particularly non-inclusive about Mother's Day, at least how people understand it at this point. It's less defined by whiny bad takes and more just by people de facto celebrating, quote-unquote, every kind of parent. Mm-hmm. NB parent, trans mom, chosen family mom, everything besides father, God forbid.
Right, it's the non-men. It's the non-men holiday.
Ain't men different. It's like, I don't know, maybe trans women is a symptom of that.
I don't want to sound too conservative or anything, but there is kind of a war, they could say like a war on masculinity. I don't really care about masculinity, but I think, in the way that we talk about, like, the left really can understand the idea of, like, immigrants being used as scapegoats. And I don't think they see that they're also making white men scapegoats. Our problems are bigger than just, like, the white men who like live in your town. And I think people don't want to go after the white men who matter, so they're just like, we're just going to be aggressive at like all white men.
Well, I think, the way I see it is, I don't want to get too deep into this because we're going to talk about Mother's Day rather than, the war on men or whatever. But, like, it's not any individual man's fault because this is a system. It's patriarchy. It's inherited from, years and years and years. It's the same thing with trans ideology. There's no real trans ideology cult leaders. But, spreading trans ideology benefits the trans person who does it because they want validity, and succeeding in patriarchy benefits a man because that's how it should be seen. It honestly benefits women as well to succeed in patriarchy. It's men that benefit, not men that necessarily inflict this on everybody else, because women have misogyny too. They internalize misogyny. Also, they just do it differently.
It's a gendered thing.
Yeah,
sure.
It's like this. You're right. It's a scapegoating thing. But yeah, we need to talk more about Mother's Day, particularly. One thing I did see online is I saw Raquel Willis, who is a black trans activist, talking about like black mother incarceration, and it was being equated to trans motherhood and their rates of incarceration, which usually trans women are imprisoned for violent criminal offenses, and black women are imprisoned for bullshit. So, though I guess we could also be talking about black trans prostitutes.
Sure.
Saying it right, but anyway, this is the tweet. Bailing out black mamas on Mother's Day, hashtag Mother's Day, means bailing out trans people. We are intentional about naming this Black Mamas Bailout and including trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming parents and caregivers. Okay, well, number one, how many non-binary people are there in prison? They're all white teens, so whatever. And number two, I'm pretty sure black motherhood has the power it does because it often connotes single motherhood. It has it there's something just like so much more important about black motherhood to the black community because of just how burdened black women often are with raising the entire next generation.
Trans people have nothing to do with that because they're men.
And that's just insulting at this point.
It is, and it's kind of like, I feel like the word minority has been taken hostage, where minority is good. And so if you have the most minute minority, you have the most goodest good. But it's trans people, yes, need resources and assistance and mental health care and all kinds of shit. And that's fine, but Mother's Day is not the time to talk about it. It's a good time to talk about what black mothers need, and they are a minority, but they're obviously bigger than trans people. And so when you kind of criticize trans people or trans activists for putting themselves into everything, they're like, well, it's just this tiny, minority, and you have to be inclusive, and you have to, it's like, no, man, we got big problems, and you're just dragging us down with your fucking bullshit and all your weird language stuff.
Or they'll say, well, some black mothers are trans, or some black mother figures are trans. It's who cares?
Yeah, actually,
just live with it. Oh my god.
The Twitter user Black by Popular Demand responded to something today. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some just dumb trans thing. Oh, it was about the Georgia abortion thing.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Make sure when you're talking about that, you use inclusive language. And she's like, just it if it applies to you or if it doesn't. I'm a lesbian. I know that pregnancy stuff doesn't apply to me. I don't get in people's faces about it or whatever. I don't remember exactly what she said, but that was her main point. And I'm like, yeah, like, sometimes when people say this identity, like women or black women or whatever, like, sometimes that won't apply to you. Sometimes it will. Sometimes you'll be a different person and it will apply to you. It's like, you're obviously college educated if you care so much about this language shit, so just figure out where you where you're supposed to be.
I hate to use this like conservative phrase, but like I said earlier, we live in a culture of like rampant individualism. That also definitely contributes to entitlement. Like, I can like only imagine just like everything needs to be about me, and that's, you know, certainly, like, okay, that is misapplied all the time by the right when we're talking about, you know, Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's like, ooh, I don't want to die. Ugh. That's like what they come off as opposed to, like, if you're talking about trans people, it's like, ooh, this piece of media isn't talking about me. Ooh. It's like, which is like a legitimate like thing that's worthy of mockery, that kind of attitude. So just. Ugh.
I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. The reason why feminists brought up male-centered language, and why it shouldn't assume that man is the default human, was because women are not a minority. Because women are half of the population. So, for trans people to turn it around and say, like, oh, you have to make all language, you know, inclusive, and it shouldn't assume that, like, cis is the default or whatever. Like, no, that's not inclusive. It's just elitist bullshit. Because there's all kinds of people in this world who just don't care about your shit and shouldn't have to, and don't need to learn all these new words. Like, I don't know. I mean, if trans people want to do that shit in their circles, at their events, or whatever, that's fine, but don't push it on other people.
I don't even know if it's fine. I just think it's stupid and misogynist at the end of the day. But I mean, there's plenty of stuff that, you're right, like, that if it's done in its own circle, and it's misogynist, and it manages not to leak out, I don't really have a problem with it. Like, certain kinks that are, you know, based in misogyny. It's like, what are you going to do about those? Everybody's misogynist, so
I don't care if a man calls himself a lesbian, but he shouldn't be running a lesbian advocacy group.
I think it'd be dumb if he does, but it's like, you know, yeah, like, if it's essentially, it's just language at that point, if that's all he's doing, but we shouldn't treat him like a fucking lesbian.
No, exactly. We should have a right not to.
Right. Other Mother's Day stuff here. We should talk about the language of the thing with trans ideology. I don't know if it bugs me most, but it's something that really does bug me about it, is that they want every word. They can't just have, you know, they can't, like, first it's like, okay, woman's a gender and female is a sex. Now, you know, female also is,
if you're a woman, you're female. So trans women are female.
I have a female body. I'm biologically female. I'm a mother. Like, it's just driving me mad. It's like, I swear to God.
Yeah, and you can't use AFAB as a verb. They're very on top of that. Like, don't you dare try to pretend that all these people have something in common with their AFAB biology. Right. Trans men have nothing to do with cis women.
Something I saw a lot of today was, and I've noticed, of course, over the course of my time in the trans community, is older trans women calling themselves surrogate mothers for young ones who are jettisoned by their real families. I don't know too much about this phenomenon, like how predatory it always ends up being. The trans community is very predatory, and certainly older men who, you know, have come up in less feminist ages are, you know, not gonna be the best about stuff like this. The young ones seem to not really like the old ones in the trans community. So if
they're
more,
they're gonna blow the cover.
They're more into big sisters than trans mothers, because
right, yeah, it's not like a drag queen family.
Because Huns look disgusting, and you don't want to look like them. You want to look like somebody who's around your age, but has been doing trans stuff longer, so they are gonna look better. That's what it is. It's all based on looks, because it's about body. My body.
Oh yeah.
Sexual fetish time.
I mean, we did have a preview of Mother's Day because in the UK, Mother's Day already happened, and it, for whatever reason, was on the same day as Trans Day of Visibility. So it was way, like, they really made Mother's Day about
that's something else. Yeah.
Yes.
Coincidence. Just, I think pretty much other stuff we just want to briefly touch on that we didn't really see anything about today, but that are relevant to motherhood and transness are pregnancy fetish stuff.
Men trapped in men's bodies, which is about autogynephilia. And then there is a Tumblr blog run by a trans woman where she posts pictures of pregnant women that he steals off of Tumblr, and he makes his own bizarre erotic captions about it, and then occasionally takes pictures of himself wearing those, like, I'm assuming that it's one of those, like, pregnancy, like when you go shop at, like, maternity stores, they have, like, fake little pillow bellies that you can try on the clothes to see how you're going to look at, like, 6 months and 9 months. Yeah, so sometimes they'll post pictures of themselves in that. If anybody wants to see something disturbing, I'll try to find the link and we'll post it in the comments. Or in the description.
Yeah. We're going to talk about uterine transplants as a right. It's like, okay, whatever.
It pisses me off. I have such a, like, when I go through my trans groups on my sock account, and trans people are talking about how they want to be pregnant so bad, I'm like, oh my god, please, doctors, don't make this happen. Because they're like,
there's no point.
So, like, the people who talk about it the most are, like, really particularly mental and don't seem like they should have babies or children in their care at all. There was, like, the one academic paper on the ethics of uterine transplants, which doesn't talk about the ethics towards the baby at all. And then similarly, there's another academic paper about this trans woman who supposedly was able to lactate and feed their baby with this, like, they were on this, like, cocktail of drugs and hormones. They never observed the trans woman feeding the baby. They never weighed the baby. For the study, they never analyzed the breast milk. They took the trans woman's word on how much they were pumping, and the amounts that the trans woman reported were not enough to feed a baby anyway, but the ethics of the baby were not considered. I never hear trans advocates talking about the babies at all.
No, it's just they exist for their validity, just like everything else. It's just they're just self-centered men, and one day it's going to hit everybody.
Will that day come soon?
I just briefly want to say, okay, so imagine there's a future where we did it. We can turn men completely into women. Maybe we can even turn women completely into men now. Yeah. Wow, we did it. Yeah. Okay, so what was the point of that? Like, why? It'd be so much better than just this weird tech patriarchy. Just abolish gender.
Yeah.
Just, Jesus Christ, that's all that this matters about. The idea that somebody can have sex dysphoria without first having gender dysphoria is bonkers to me. Like,
they're interrelated.
There's no way that sex dysphoria comes before gender dysphoria. That's an astonishingly nihilistic proposition that we can, okay, so we have this society that is gendered to the maximum, right? Sex is gendered. Like, breasts are considered feminine rather than just female. Dick is big dick, extremely masculine, and like rather than just a natural male thing. Body hair, even if a woman has it, that's masculine. So, okay, we have all this stuff. The gendering of bodies is complete. Now we say you can have a sex dysphoria. You can believe something about your sex is wrong, and we're somehow are going to not take into account that things about our sexed bodies are taught by gender. I don't buy it. Fuck that.
Yeah.
At the end of Mother's Day here, we would just want to talk about fur moms or stolen valor.
All
right, so that's pretty much it for Mother's Day. Let's go ahead with the other stories of the week. First one we're going to talk about here, I think, is there's a study in China about how it is, quote-unquote, failing trans people as young attempt surgery on themselves. And it goes on to say, like, there's, like, just, like, not a lot of access to surgery in China, not a lot of access to hormones in China. This to me is just more, like, suicide baiting. It's classic in the trans community at this point.
I wonder what the percentage is in China as far as trans women go, like gay to straight, like homosexual to heterosexual, because it seems like in more traditional societies, although who knows what China's really like now, since they have this like burgeoning middle class and so many Chinese people come to America to study. But it just seems like in Asia there's just like, it's like the answer for gay men more so than like the autogynephile stuff.
I don't want to say like you should have trans resources if you have a patriarchal society that causes men to think they're women and vice versa, but that is a bit of a transmedicalist point. Like, it's almost like, this is treatment the same way that depression is treated with SSRIs, but still depression is socially caused for a large part of it. Yeah. I think it's different than that, though. Because the thing is, we have wide swaths of trans people who have complete social influence causing this. ROGD is, I didn't want to admit that was a real thing for a while, but like that's not really a bad way to phrase it, I don't think. We really do not want to have the amount of trans resources available that we do right now. I'm sorry, like it's really irresponsible.
Yeah.
But maybe
or it should be used
they just
better.
need a better mental health system.
Yeah, well, first off, there's so many people, and then also, don't they have a deficit of women from...
That's interesting. Oh, let them transition.
Well, because I think they have sex.
Get
they
back.
have a lot of sex-selective abortion.
Oh, shit. You know what is probably happening is all those virgins there are like, wow, I'm not a real man. Maybe I could be
my own waifu.
Yes. Or whatever the Chinese word for it is.
Yeah, exactly. Next item. I think it's pretty interesting that, so this one is about a trans woman who helped organize a women's march in 2017 in Portland, Oregon, and then stole a bunch of money from it. And I think that's very symbolic of the situation writ large of trans women in women's spaces and in women's organizations.
It'd be really funny if it was just like a literal man or whatever and was embezzling that and after identifying just for this purpose is like, see you later, suckers, afterwards, and just like rips off the wig. And it's like, you were a man all along.
So your Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, but he gets away with it because we live in a society Scooby-Doo could not prevent
the gang failed us.
Despite being hippies.
So yeah.
Society got them.
So this trans woman has been indicted. I guess that's all there is to say about that. I think they believe it's about over $22,000. And I think this is not the first trans woman who's been accused of some kind of nonprofit fraud.
What?
Nonprofit
there's at
embezzling.
least one other one that I know of, which is Trans Lifeline, which I think is still around, but is still a bit of a joke. That one is so funny to me because they posted this picture, which is still up on Twitter, of a toilet, and it says "trans people belong here," and it's like, we know what you're trying to get at, but also we know what and then so I said ha ha or something, and they blocked me. Hey, what if I was trying to kill myself? Who would I call?
I bet that line is just going day and night with just lonely people.
That would be so funny. I would like to call it, actually, just for fraud. All my boys read Harper's Bazaar. Should probably mention that sex strike really quick.
They're withholding sex from people who have no power to do anything.
So, yep. So that's all we got to say about the sex strike, except for I also want to say that people are obviously this excludes trans women.
Why?
Because trans women don't have female reproductive systems, so it doesn't matter to them, and so therefore it's excluding or whatever. There's this article about there was a family who fostered a child at 3, and there was already an older child who was 7 in that family who had been transitioned to female, and then the 3-year-old was also. Now, I have a sister who is also trans, who's MTF, and we also have the Wachowski sisters, so this is not in the article it says it's unheard of, but I mean, well, we are both
at that age,
but still it's
well, okay, because
I mean, not that I think that it's GID or whatever. I think obviously that it's something learned, but it wouldn't be learned at that age anyway, because I feel like most trans kids are just somebody says, I don't like trucks, and then it's over for their masculinity.
Well, it's like you were saying the other week, that if you want to see transness in yourself or in your kids, you'll see it. And I think the interesting thing about this is that there were a bunch of social workers, and there was a doctor and some other experts who were like, this raises some serious red flags, and the courts were just like, nah. But I actually do think that telling kids that they can change sex is a form of child abuse. It's a form of psychological child abuse, because you're selling them something that you can't deliver.
I think that all gender is child abuse, including...
Well, sure. I mean, parents who have tried to parent gender neutrally, so to speak, will tell you that it's almost impossible. Kids do tend to gravitate to one thing or another. Girls will often like the Disney princess shit because other girls do, and it's about fitting in.
Right.
And usually the kids who stray the most are especially all the way to the point of having, maybe a gender identity disorder, and will likely turn into gay kids or bisexual kids when they become teens or go through puberty. That's why it's so uncommon to have 2 in the family, because it's really uncommon to have 2 gay kids in the family. From what I understand, there is some evidence that autogynephilia might actually be biological to some extent, and that might actually run in families, because there are cases of like father and son, and like where the son is like not even old enough to. There's like one case that I think Ken Zucker dealt with, where like the kid was like 2 or 3 and was like getting little baby boners touching dresses.
I'm sorry. I think that's bullshit.
I don't think Ken Zucker would lie about that case.
I don't care about Ken Zucker. I'm like Ken Fucker as far as I'm concerned. But that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I don't believe too much in the nature as opposed to the nurture of anything gendered. I think that's a really defeatist way to look at things.
Well, it's always a combination. It's never one side or the other. That's always a combination. But I don't know. I'm just saying that from what I've read, there's some evidence. That doesn't mean that's proof. It just means, because no one's allowed to study this shit anyway, but there's possibly evidence that autogynephilia runs in families. But
whatever. I think it's all society.
Those poor kids, honestly, like, I don't know what's going to happen for them. I hope that the fostered kid gets out at least. I think that some parents really think that they like the praise and of like being the woke parents.
Oh, it's Munchausen by proxy.
Or the Munchausen by proxy. Yeah. I think it's probably in their minds good. I mean, I think everybody's usually working with good intentions in their own minds. But yeah, I think it's really easy to confuse a kid. Like 3-year-olds don't know this whole gender shit. They're just getting a hang of it. And like,
as well they shouldn't.
Yeah, and like to get kids' birth certificates and forms and stuff changed when they're 4 is just so fucking nuts to me. Alright.
Anyway.
Dumb online shit. Let's go.
Alright, the first story here is so this has been a big thing, and it's not really been in the TERF world at all, but this is about makeup artist James Charles and his cancellation. From what I understand, this is all just it's all based on like just a brand dispute. James Charles has like a good friend who had a competing product endorsed by him, and then he said sorry, and then there was, I don't even know, it was like she was still mad about it, and then she did a whole video, and then everybody's like, honey, he is canceled. And it's like, I don't understand like what he did. The main thing that I can sort of grasp that seems to be potentially wrong that he did is he was quote unquote predatory to straight men. Dude, okay, I understand that that's a possibility. I understand that, you know, like straight men have feelings too, and that we shouldn't just be like dismissing all predatory behavior to them. But let's think about this, because, okay, James Charles is a femboy, right? He's known for wearing makeup and looking very feminine, like me, but he is not medically transitioned or anything.
So wait, so he pretended to be a girl?
Yeah. Gee, does that remind you of anybody,
in order to get dick pics?
Yes.
Okay, so like what's the difference between him pretending to be a girl and anybody else claiming to be a girl who's male?
I do not know.
Like what about all the trans women?
Because he identifies as male, and everyone knows you gravitate. Everyone knows you're attracted to the identification of a person,
right,
rather than because the identification of a person is them as a person, not their sex, not their even the way they fucking look. Like, it's identification somehow equals personality. Oh wait, I guess we all understand that because like it's all just personality anyway. And then so we're just over here equating man personality, woman personality, and that's woke now.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how many like lesbian friends have told me about how, like, trans women on, like, lesbian dating apps will have these, like, really great pictures that are, like, they have, like, tons of filters and stuff on them, and that, like, they ended up having to do, like, voice verifications and stuff because, like, they would end up, like, going on these dates and then finding out, like, right away that the person was trans, and, like, that wasn't disclosed prior to the date. And they didn't want to be rude, so they just kind of hung out. But, like, they weren't interested in that person, and the pics were very false advertising.
Validation via coochie.
Trans people who are honest about their sex can be really attractive, and I think that their dating pool is probably actually a little bit larger because, like, if you... God, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm obviously married, but, like...
I know how to put this.
Go ahead.
I've seen this get noticed all the time. The way it's phrased in the trans community, for trans people listening for whatever reason, is cross-dressers who transition don't end up looking as good as you think they would. And it's so easy to see why. It's because they were a man being feminine, which is pretty high if, you know, you're doing it correctly, as opposed to, you know, supposedly female.
Right.
And, like, trying to pass off as female. And then, like, you're gonna notice all these things that are not quite on.
Right, it's got that uncanny valley thing.
Yeah, and, like, you give yourself dysphoria by doing that.
Right, and
it's so easy. That's so simple that an instance where body dysphoria can come from gender dysphoria. But I know it's, like, even more deeper than that, but the main lesson here is that trap's hot, tranny's not.
I guess it's not the uncanny valley thing. I think the uncanny valley thing comes from people who've had, like, way too many surgeries. But there is, yeah, it's like, from my understanding, the way it works biologically is that we don't actually register feminine features and masculine features. We register masculine features and lack thereof. So it's way easier, in some sense, for trans men to pass because they can just, like, grow a beard and you go, masculine feature.
Right.
And then trans women, you know, you've got the jaw, you've got the Adam's apple, you've got, you know, all these different things that, like, if they're not in place, are gonna have people read you as male. Like, gender critical trans people just have better personalities. Like, I think, and can carry themselves better. Like, trans people who are, like, real about it, even some of the trans med people who just want to, like, assimilate, they just have, like, better personalities. They're not so inwardly focused and stuff. Like, I just think that they're gonna just carry themselves through a date better. They're just gonna have more success in the dating field.
Thank you so much, Karen.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but real quick, just to wrap up, James Charles, I'm unaware of... Well, actually, I do know why he's getting canceled, because, like, he got canceled earlier for something else.
You can get double, like, canceled?
Racist comment. Like, I don't care, really, honestly, at all. He's just some guy. Like, why just stop canceling people. So he's into straight men, and I guess, like, he does things to them that are not kosher. Like, he catfished the whole soccer team into sending him dick pics.
This is just an allegation.
In high school.
Okay. Did this person go to high school with him?
I think so.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know who he is, so I don't care. But
I
don't like vigilante justice. Like,
my main point is stop canceling femboys.
Yeah, I know.
We need here's the main thing. Because he quote unquote identifies as male, he's fair game. I swear to God, like, he just seems like easy target because he identifies as male. If he just said 2 seconds earlier that he was transitioning to female, then
would be forgiven.
You couldn't say anything. You couldn't say anything. It's like, oh, it makes sense why he'd want to have sex with straight men, because he feels like a woman, and straight men are into women. It's like, well,
I don't know his personality, but, like, if it is one where he's gonna react to the loss of people liking him, I think, you know, we can start the countdown to transition.
Yep. That's very sad. Another chalk another femboy down.
Well, I mean, that Charles Clymer, he was super shamed and like.
By the way, mentioned in the new Post Mail Ones song, which is me and my friend Sad Femme, which is going to be at the end of the episode.
Oh, I can't wait. But yeah, I mean, that's his story, right? Like, he's this failed male feminist, and then he, like, disappears for a little while, and then he comes back with all these, like...
He harassed people, too.
Yeah, well, he's now, like, something for the human rights campaign. He, like, works for them.
He's a big fucking deal now.
Are there
there
any trans people without, like, weird backgrounds and, like, why are there so, like, why is the population of trans people in these leadership positions so shady? Like, can't they find somebody with, like, a clean background? Like...
Nope.
Yeah.
Because it's... We were talking about last episode. It's, like, the, abuse.
Right.
Remanifesting. Let's move along to... we've got a new Snapchat filter that lets men become women. Here's a tweet or a Facebook post. PSA for cis folks. The Snapchat gender swapping filter is transphobic, and posting your selfies for entertainment or a laugh tells trans/queer people everything they need to know about how you really see us. I can sort of empathize with this, but also just trans people are just wet blankets.
There is a storied history of men in dresses and men pretending to be women, and just because there are trans people doesn't mean that men can't play around with appearing to be women.
I don't think there should be trans people, to be honest.
Well, this is a non-issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. I understand the frustration here, because, you work really hard as somebody who transitions to female or feminine or whatever, to look feminine, and here comes along a Snapchat filter. I mean, like, I endorse, boys being feminine, of course. We live in a society. I don't like it.
I don't like that.
I don't like it. Anyway, we need to really move on with this. Okay, we've got a few Twitter stories here. These keep fucking happening, huh?
Yeah. So, so Juliet is a big TERF who has fallen for telling trans women that they're not a lesbian. They've been permanently suspended, and then there was
How dare
I know, there was a few other ones where people were suspended over stupid shit. I think the biggest one is Ray Blanchard was suspended for...
He's back now.
Oh, he is back?
He had to delete a tweet. The tweet that he was briefly suspended or locked for was... My beliefs include the following 6 elements. 1. Transsexualism and milder forms of gender dysphoria are types of mental disorder which may leave the individual with average or even above average functioning in unrelated areas of life. Now, I don't... Again, but I really don't think there should be any Twitter rules. So...
Yeah.
Ray Blanchard talking about transsexual theory, which, by the way, he's like the only person I know who fucking even does that.
Yeah.
It's not hateful content. Go fuck yourself. And then the last big one here is Graham Linehan, one of the greatest male allies. Well, he wrote a big thing on it. He's locked right now, and no, he's still on there.
I read most of it, and I guess I thought that because he had spoken in the past, like, he had kind of done these, like, oh, I gotta be off Twitter for a while, but then he'd be like, I'm just coming back for just a second to say that, like, he couldn't stay away from it, and I thought that maybe he was dealing with,
that's
like...
same. I really...
some addiction.
Relate to that.
Yeah.
I definitely am addicted to the internet.
Yeah, I know. Same.
Hopefully. Yeah, he's gonna be back in a while. He's
back.
even, like, 11 hours ago tweeting about trans stuff still.
Alright.
So, yeah. Alright. Next is...
So, I don't know who reads Deadspin anymore.
I do sometimes. I mean, this article was, like, brain-meltingly dumb, but...
Yeah, I mean, it was maybe one of the most egregious, like, it's so hard to even discuss. It's just like they're playing all these tricks with language to make it seem like we don't know if men are stronger than women. And I think that interesting...
That's unfeminist to know that.
Right. I think the interesting quote in here is that... McKinnon says, Rachel McKinnon, the also known as...
Who we all know and love.
The psychopath, they call him.
The quote I saw in there, it's not a quote, but it said something like, McKinnon will be the first to tell you that she doesn't win championships just because she's male. It's like, well, I don't fucking care about her word for it.
Yeah, so it's...
Why would I care about that?
She's like the most biased person that you could ask about it. But it says, when we shove the concept of athletic ability, strength for instance, into the same black and white binary that we put gender into, we're wrong. There is no stark line separating what men can do athletically and what women can. Some women, in fact, are bigger, faster, and stronger than some men. It's like, no fucking shit. Nobody ever said that. It's such a straw man. Nobody was ever like, no women are stronger than any men. But it's like...
I guess we're putting, like, the archetypical virgin from the Virgin Chad meme up against Serena Williams now to prove that trans women are women or something.
Yeah, like, my husband said, like, to me, he's like, your best people are about as good as our medium people. And, like, so I don't totally understand it, but I took from the comments of the Deadspin article that, like, the way they score it is, like, some kind of formula that takes sex into account. So, like, in a sense, women are better power lifters within this formula. But then, like, as soon as we put... It's, like, it's not just, like, based on just how much weight you can lift. It's, like, a whole bunch of factors. So it kind of does even the playing field. But if we allow men to say that they're female, I mean, obviously that even within that formula, it's going to be like, well, here's your new trans champions. Whatever. It's...
Oh, my God.
It's the crazy making of, like, just, like, this idea that men and women, like, we don't know. It is a mystery why women aren't in pro football or pro basketball or pro baseball. I think it's just that it's a boys club and they just won't let them in. I've literally heard TRAs say shit like that. That, like, we need to give women more of a chance. They should compete with men. The reason why they do poorly is because we don't believe in them enough. They're like, come on, mate.
Why don't you, like, listen to women and what they say about that? Listen to what Serena Williams, the greatest female athlete in the world, has to say about that. Next, very briefly, because I just found this, is an article called Why This Trans Woman Can't Identify with the Handmaid's Tale. Well, it's because it's not about you and you have problems identifying with people who aren't you. Why this white trans woman can't identify with black cinema. It's like, okay, wow, oh, you poor thing.
So I read this article, but one of my hobbies is, like, if I'm watching a TV show or something, I'll, like, put the title of the TV show in and I'll do, like, transphobic to see, like, if there's any comments, like, people bitching about it.
That's pretty funny.
So that's how I found that article originally.
Wow. Well, that's obviously gonna be, a pretty classic example of that. It reminds me of, I remember when I was way more poisoned by trans ideology, and I went to see Mad Max Fury Road. And do you know how the women in that movie are, like, the breeders or whatever, and they're oppressed on the basis of their sex? I spent a good portion of that beautiful, badass movie
going, but where would I be in this world? And I'm like a film critic too. I should be looking at the medium, not like such petty politics of it. I like to look at politics in films very often, but I should not be looking at something so empty. And yet here I am, and I even have this kind of take. So that's just shows you how deep self-centeredness can run, especially if you create this ideological identity for yourself and then just spin it and spin it and spin it. So there's just more and more and more. Everything has to be catering to you. Okay, let's do our last thing, which is it's Theory Sphere.
All right, yeah, Theory Sphere. So we're going to talk about motherhood.
Yeah.
I want to find something really fast.
Yeah. You also wanted to talk about the careerist feminism as opposed to natalist feminism, right?
Well, I don't know so specifically in those terms, but I guess I can just talk about, feminism to me, that I don't understand, anti-natalist feminists. I mean, I can understand it from, a philosophical point of view, but the ones that are kind of ew, kids, and take on this attitude about it, that is kind of, anti-children, not just oh, it's not right for me, is a bit weird to me. And I think that feminism in, the second wave of feminism kind of failed moms. And it's actually no wonder to me that the ERA didn't get passed because, feminism, they kind of got women into the workplace, but then they didn't get, childcare. They didn't get help for moms during that time. So I think that was kind of a big reason why there was so much backlash and why there's so many people, conservatives, who say that, feminism, ruined things, was because we got, part of the package that we needed, that capitalism was, willing to give to women. It could be allowed within it. And then the other things that were necessary to bring women into more, it's a tough thing to even talk about equality because we kind of tend to think of equality as sameness, but men and women are biologically different. They have different needs and they have different roles in child rearing. And 80% of women are going to have children in the West, and in everywhere else in the world that's even higher. So it's important to take care of mothers, and I think that feminism that fails to do that is weak and shitty. But there's an article that is, I guess an article is the best way to say it, but I'm gonna give you the link so that you can put it in the description. It's called "In the Beginning We Were All Created Female," and I think it's just a really beautiful piece, and I think everybody should read it.
Well, where did we go wrong?
I know, but I'm just gonna read the very first paragraph of this. This is actually one of the articles that men really tend to like. This is a good article for TERF and men. So the very first paragraph, which I just love this opening. In the beginning was a very female sea. For 2.5 billion years on Earth, all life forms floated in the womb-like environment of the planetary ocean, nourished and protected by its fluid chemicals, rocked by the lunar tidal rhythms. Charles Darwin believed the menstrual cycle originated here, organically echoing the moon pulse of the sea.
Interesting.
And because the longest period of life's time on Earth was dominated by marine forms reproducing parthenogenetically, He concluded that the female principle was primordial. In the beginning, life did not gestate within the body of any creature, but within the ocean womb containing all organic life. There were no specialized sex organs. Rather, a generalized female existence reproduced itself within the female body of the sea. And then it goes on to talk about, like, when the penis first appears, and it's just a really super interesting article, which should give people an appreciation for the female in a biological sense. And mothers are kind of important to all of life. And I am very pro female supremacy, which means that I think there should be a light worship of the life-giving ability of the female body.
Yeah, I actually agree.
I think that's healthy for society.
The way that I see this a little bit, I feel like I've heard this take from conservatives or even misogynists before, but I almost wonder about how much careerist feminism is another part of that just individualistic society that I've been talking about. Like, it's like, well, you know, women should be able to go do their own ambitions much the way that men do, and it shouldn't just be limited to motherhood and their biology, but maybe men should be a little more limited. Then it's like, the thing is that I think maybe it's just that, like, men used to be more limited because they had to, like, pick up rocks and potentially die for the women in the tribe against saber-toothed tigers and shit. You know, just, like, be more of the gatherers. I know that was not exclusive, but or the hunters rather. Like, and then when, you know, society started moving more towards, like, a society of leisure or entertainment or things that, you know, people actually like doing, then men dominated that as well because they were, you know, still patriarchally the laborer or whatever, and so society didn't move enough for women.
So I do think that it is important for children to have pretty full-time care. I'm not even entirely sure that like daycare alone is the full feminist solution for women's roles. I think that most people have bullshit jobs and that most people work too much. So kind of bringing the economy to a point where people don't work 40 hours anyway would be great. I mean, I still think that mothers should have a say in how the world is run, you know, and how companies are run and how, you know, and be able to work. So I hope that there's some, like, feminist future building stuff. Like, I don't think that the answer is necessarily just like, oh, give women daycare and everything will be fixed. Because women do want to be, you know, mothers want to be with their children. So it's very conflicting. You know, you want to have a career and you want to be in the real world because just being around children can be really mentally taxing and you crave, like, adult conversation and to have different kinds of responsibilities. But then when you're at work, you want to be with your kids because you don't want somebody else raising them. So I think we have to kind of rethink society around mothers, actually. I don't think it's just that feminism should surround or should center mothers. I think society should center mothers.
Yeah. What you said earlier about how there should be like a light worship of the vagone or whatever, it's like I definitely how did we stray from that? Because like men who were upset with their wives for not bearing sons and would even kill them and still do to this day.
I mean, the going anthropological feminist theory is that, and also Marxist theory, is that around the time when agrarian societies were formed, where you had wealth that you could store, there became a need to pass that wealth down to others, which necessitated, and it, I guess it didn't, it could have been that women passed down wealth to women, but it just, men were the ones who were doing the labor on that, maybe, and felt that their contributions required a patrilineage to pass those things down. And so it became necessary to control women's reproduction so that you could ensure that the heir to your fortune was truly your heir. Men.
Yeah. It almost seems also just like having strayed from the worship of the female reproductive system is like, I'm positive there has to at least have been some culture at some point that did have something like that, and it's just like how we've moved off of that is something that I'd be also interested in knowing. Is that I feel like I don't know too much about the anthropology of this. I'm very interested in it, but it just seems to me like we've maybe become more nihilistic as a society, and if we were a more humanistic society, then maybe we could, celebrate humans coming into the world.
Yeah.
As opposed to just bodies that we're all just like, just you see people walking around in New York and it's just they all hate each other just for being there.
I think, yeah. I definitely noticed when I went to Iceland that the whole, it was definitely more built around children, and people seemed to like children and like helping mothers, and people smiled at children, and people like kids. It's a society that likes kids, and you can just tell right away. If you're interested in more of the the history of women, matrilineal cultures, and then there's a book called Female Erasure, which is ostensibly about the transgender issue, but there's so much in there that just kind of makes the case for feminism in a spiritual way too. It's a collection of essays written by tons of different authors, and it spans a lot of time, and it's actually a great book. I think it's only $12 on Amazon. I met the editor once at a Pussy Church event. And
the Pussy Church of Modern Witchcraft?
That's right. I went to one. Oh my God.
I wish I was allowed to go to that.
I know. It was pretty cool. I mean, I dig the spiritual side of feminism. It's not something I'm going to spend a ton of time on, but I do think that we need to consider new rituals and new institutions. I want to see more building of the matriarchy just as much as the smashing of patriarchy. But yeah, I definitely recommend that book, and actually the essay that I was talking about earlier is in that book as well. It's definitely a worthwhile read if you want to learn more about the anthropological stuff. But yeah, moms are great. I'm not just saying that because I am a mom, but I might be just saying that because I am a mom.
Well, Karen's great,
Karen's
at least.
Great. Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms.
Especially Karen.
Especially the Karens.
It was actually International Karen Day on May 8th.
That's not true. So, do we have anything else on the agenda for today?
The new track, which is coming out, the new track from Post Mail One's here, me and Sad Femme.
All right.
Which is, I guess, starting soon.
Yeah. I think that you can just go right into it.
Hooray.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir. Motherfucker.
Tough guy.
I need to talk about how this different several times before. I need to put this number back.
Pop these trannies like a pilly sissy. You a frilly sissy at the con with the prissy sissies and them faggy sissies. You speak up and they stabbing skissies, clearing they panties pissy. OJY, not a tranny sissy. You a fan of sissy on the E dick in my drawers. Garner on my phone. You wanna fuck with no hard on, bitch? Quit your deep ass modes. Only stroke your bone alone. 45 minutes from the hormones. Step your pussy up or your dead name's on your gravestone. In matriarchy, but I'm transition. We gender abolition. Fallacy. Don't talk right. They trying to get me first edition. All you do is misgender a man or cut your tongue out like audition. So many pedals in the community, it's like the remix to Ignition. I don't fuck with no new pose, only real hoes. Put my dick in the guillotine and I pass it to my bro. You get clocked in the bathroom and you call it Jim Crow. But I had my gold on me, I thought that they would never know. I'm on some ramen identity shit, appropriate a bitch. Call myself a cold witch, live in darkness like a lich. Trash physics on the web, white rich with the glitch. Kitsch, sexually repressed, so I say that I'm a switch.
Tranny's iffy, Bricky got the stiffy, got no titties or a gynophilic sissy, You look like Gritty, get your ass back to Philly. No one knows you disclose, but no surprise you got a willy. Get your 72 gender, stack 'em up like you a baller tranny. I burn that shit to the ground, genders abolished, ban it. Radical, sad femme, might win all them Grammys. Can't even fit 'em in the whip like your balls and
I'm on some
panties.
transcel shit, call a lesbian a bitch. Tell her suck my girl dick, then I send a dick pic. From an online sale, dump a turf in a ditch. Wait, miss her, I'm prettier anyway because I wear lipstick. I'm on some rubber identity shit, appropriate a bitch. Call myself a code witch, live in darkness like a lich. Trash prisoners on the web, white and rich with a glitch cage. Sexually repressed, so I say that I'm a switch.
I noticed that you click before you say go. Or I at least hear the sound of you clicking before I hear you say go. But anyway.
That's just because I'm farther away from the computer. It's sonic.
Right.
Noise. It's sonic noise.
Sure, sonic noise.